Welcome to Suburban Death Metal Dad bonus tracks episode 110, Exodus Goliath. So I'm doing things a little bit different here. I'm not sitting in the room talking into the camera. I'm actually in my car parked. I originally tried to do this while I was driving around with the microphone pinned to the visor, but the audio got real shaky in places and garbled. So basically I had to scrap that and start over. So I'm just, like I said, just sitting in my car and just want to kind of give a review of the new Exodus album. And just starting things off though with my opinion of Exodus overall. Been a fan since Bonded by Blood. That's my favorite. Also like Pleasures of the Flesh a lot. But after that, it's kind of like songs from albums, not necessarily full albums I'm really into. It's just, for whatever reason, a few songs, 2 or 3 songs from an album, and the rest of it I'm just kind of whatever, it's okay. Nothing that really grabs me by the throat, so to speak. So while I'm a fan of Exodus, they're more like somewhere in the middle as far as overall thrash for me. I have bands that I really, really like, bands that I don't like at all, and Exodus for me is kind of like in the middle for the most part. But anyway, I'm going to do this in a certain order, starting things off with talking about the packaging of the new album, Goliath. First of all, the artwork I think is excellent. It's probably my favorite Exodus artwork up to this point. They have some good artwork on their albums and some mediocre to bad artwork. And this one I really like a lot. What I don't really like is I definitely prefer jewel case, and at least to have a digipack that has like the plastic circular CD holder in it would be nice. I really don't like these digipacks where it's all cardboard and it has that tight pocket on the inside. You got to like pull the CD out, and I don't like that at all, to be honest, because I'm always concerned about the CD getting scratched or scuffed while I'm pulling it in or out. But anyway, overall, other than that, I really like the artwork and the packaging as far as like all the different panels and the booklet. I think it's pretty cool. Like I said, pretty much in my opinion, their best so far. And then on to the production of the album. A lot of Exodus albums have a production I don't really care for that much. And in recent times, sometimes I felt like the guitar tone especially was a little bit too abrasive. And but for whatever reason, this one, and it's not much different than the ones in the past, but I think everything is really well balanced. I don't really feel the guitars are too grating on my ears. I think it's overall really nice. And of course, since they've had Jack Gibson in the band, the bass has been pretty high in the mix on all the albums, which I really like. I'm a big fan of bass guitar, and he has a really nice tone. And I think it just, like I said, and the drums sound really good and everything's placed really well. I think it's overall a really good balanced mix, and I like it a lot. And so yeah, on to the songs. So the first video single they released, 3111, I heard that and thought, it was a really great song. I liked it a lot. Became intrigued for the new Exodus album. And then they released the title track, the video for the title track, Goliath, and also thought, it's a really slow, doomy song for the most part. But I really liked it. I thought it was really heavy and crushing. And, they have, I think her name's Katie Jacoby, doing some violin on the song in a very melancholic way. And I thought, it was a nice touch and definitely elevated that part of the song a bit. So yeah, definitely was a fan of that one as well. And then finally, before the album was released, they released the last single, Promise You This, in the video, of course. And this one also a bit different, but really, really cool song. I like this one a lot. Probably one of my favorites of the album, and very catchy, especially the chorus. And yeah, definitely a really cool song. So after hearing those 3 songs, I was definitely pretty excited for the album. And like I said, with Exodus, I'm kind of like, it's a bit hit or miss for me. So I usually don't get too terribly excited for new Exodus, but after hearing those 3 songs, I was definitely looking forward to the album, and I pre-ordered it and started listening to it. I've been listening to it pretty consistently for a week straight, and the singles I've heard probably 3 or 4 times each before the album was released, and then probably listened to the album overall probably at least 6 times by now, I'm thinking, something like that. So I've definitely listened to this one a lot more than a lot of the previous Exodus albums, where I'd listen to it and I'm like, there'd be, like I said, a few songs here and there, some riffs that would really, catch my attention, and I'd go back to those songs, but I wouldn't necessarily listen to the album in full so much. But for this one, I've just been playing it, usually out of order, not necessarily like songs 1 through 10 in that order. I'll jump around a bit, but pretty much I'll hit all the songs, just going from order 1 to 10, I already talked about 3111, really great song, a great opening track, like that one a lot. Then you have Hostis Humani Generis, and not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but that's really a fast one, pretty good song. The riffs are, they're good. There's nothing really super outstanding in my opinion, but it is a really good song, I think, really fast, and probably a good one to play live, I suspect. Then the first surprise came with track number 3, The Changing Me. Just the opening of it, I was like, oh, that's different, but I really liked it. Very catchy. This one's written by Lee Altus. Also features Peter from Hypocrisy doing some backups. That's really the point that I'm not really satisfied with. I really don't care for that part, whatever the chorus or whatever you want to call it, of the song. Like I said, I heard it and I was like, to me it didn't really fit with the song. It's like a melodic death metal part. I think somewhere I read someone called it the In Flames part or whatever. But yeah, I feel like it doesn't really fit. And I'm a huge fan of Peter, and he's actually my favorite death metal vocalist. And but I just felt like it didn't work for me. I really disliked it at first. I've listened to the song, like I said, maybe 6 or 7 times now. It's a little bit easier for me to listen to now. I kind of like, okay, accept it, whatever. But I don't really like it. The rest of the song I think is really good. But yeah, I wish they would have done something different there. Maybe even some death metal vocals from Peter would have been a different or better choice in my opinion. But whatever, still a very good song. And then Promise You This, I already talked about that. I really, really like that song. And then Goliath, track 5, also already talked about that. Really good song. Track number 6, Beyond the Event Horizon. Another one I really, really like. Really great song. A lot of great riffs, fast parts. Yeah, definitely one of my favorites, that one. Then track 7, 2 Minutes 8. This one for me, it's okay. It's decent. Not one of my favorites, but it's not bad. I can listen to it. It's not too bad, in my opinion. It's okay. Then track number 8, Violence Works. This is probably my least favorite song on the album, especially that beginning part. I think it sounds kind of cheesy, a little bit lame, if you know what I'm talking about, in the very beginning of the song. Then after that, it's just okay for me. I might even call this, in my opinion, a little bit of a filler. And it's called Violence Works, so I think it should have sounded a lot more violent. To me, it doesn't sound violent at all, but whatever. Just, yeah, my least favorite track. And then track 9, Summon of the God Unknown. Yeah, I really like this one. Starts out pretty slow, picks up a little bit towards the middle, but overall, pretty slow track and some different type of singing from Rob Dukes. Some parts I felt like his singing was not as good as it could be. Probably as far as the whole album goes, this song probably has the least favorite singing from him, in my opinion. But not bad, not terrible, just, I don't know, something sounds a little bit off. Especially in the beginning of the song, the way he sings, those slow parts. It gets better for me towards, like I said, the middle and the end of the song, but I really like the song otherwise. And then finally, track 10, The Dirtiest of the Dozen, lyrics written by Tom Hunting, basically about the band. Really good song, fast, very catchy, has some cool solo bass parts from Jack Gibson. I think is pretty neat. They don't do that very often. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Overall, I would say at this point one of my favorite Exodus albums. And I've seen some scores online that are pretty low for this. Doesn't seem to be a fan favorite, I guess, at this point, but for me, I really like it. Like I said, one of my favorites. I've listened to this one front to back a lot more than a lot of Exodus albums, other than maybe Blinded by Blood, Pleasure of the Flesh, which I listen to a ton. Some other albums here and there. I actually like Impact is Imminent quite a bit. But yeah, overall, like I said, a really good album in my opinion. I like it a lot. Some may not, but for me, everything about it, other than, like I said, a few songs that don't really work for me, they're still not terrible by any means. But yeah, final verdict, I think it's a great album. Favorite tracks, the 3 singles, 3111, Promise You This, and Goliath are great. Like I said, I also really like Beyond the Event Horizon. The Changing Me, other than the part I already talked about, Peter on backups, and Summon of the God Unknown, The Dirtiest of the Dozen, really great songs. So overall, yeah, I think they killed it on this one. I know they recorded 8 other tracks for the next album during this session, so I'm really curious to hear what that's going to sound like. And I assume it's probably going to be a few years before we hear it. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.